is this Michigan scandal that is now ongoing, and new reporting from ESPN and The Athletic on this, and what could be hard video evidence of them using video devices to record other teams and signals. Here's the details, and then we'll talk about how you feel and what you think can happen. But apparently, Connor Stalions, the staffer at Michigan, who has been suspended with pay last Friday, the last 3 years had attended to or bought tickets for 30 games involving 11 different Big Ten teams. Some of those games he didn't attend in person. He bought the tickets with his personal credit card, according to ESPN, and forwarded those tickets to at least 3 different individuals around the country for them to attend the games. The seats were always usually inside the 40s, near the 50s, high enough up on the opposite sidelines to be able to film the future opponent of Michigan. The games always involved either a team Michigan would play later in the year or both teams that Michigan would play later in the year. And video evidence, security cameras, and other use have people using smartphones or other recording devices sitting in those seats that match up with the tickets that have been purchased by Stalions. Significant video evidence and a paper trail, apparently, is what they have and will turn into the NCAA at some point this week. And this past weekend's Ohio State-Penn State game, according to ESPN's Pete Thamel and Mark Schlabach, there is evidence that Stalions had bought tickets, 2 of them, on each side of the stadium to film the Penn State and the Ohio State benches, allegedly, would be set up to do that. All that said, your big takeaway from this is what?
Paper trail is, I just don't get it. Like, you can get American Express gift cards. You could call a third-party service like an ATIX, and you could be like, my credit's bad. I'm going to go in and pay you up front. I need these tickets. There's no paper trail there.
They are getting a little smarter, though, because keep in mind Jim Harbaugh bought the cheeseburger on the university card that he lied about. So at least they're one step removed from using the university card. He did his own. But he did create a paper trail, and it seems like they were a little bit brazen about it. Like, if a guy sat next to you and recorded the whole game on video, that would be super weird.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that I would say anything to anybody, but I've never seen that done.
But the phones are out so much, and Connor Stalions is a young dude, former Marine, by the way. So I
appreciate his service.
Yeah, I don't know if it would look weird maybe if you're sitting there the entire game. I don't know. I will say this: I read a fascinating article this morning, and I apologize. These allergies are some of the worst ever been. Yours bad?
I'm battling.
Yeah. But I read this article this morning where Jim Knowles, the Ohio State defensive coordinator, was interviewed in the offseason. And he said at least 75% of teams are stealing signs or trying to.
In the game they're playing.
In the game they're playing. And outside of that, though, they estimate more than half are trying to figure out ways to cheat during the season.
And Rusty, the chat room, says, I just don't understand why this is such a big thing. It's just scouting. And the reason it's illegal, now you can argue whether it should be illegal or not, but the reason it's illegal is because on the coaches' films they get, they don't have the signals on there, right? That's the way Michigan's going to give Penn State film without, give them film is old, but whatever film they upload into the systems.
The EXO system.
The EXO system. It's not going to have hand signals on it. And the reason he was going was to get these signals, and now I can match it up with the plays, and I got their signals. I don't even have to steal them in the game. I got them.
Hey, last time you guys were in the Rose Bowl was?
2013. Well, it's 2014 technically.
And you guys ever heard the story that Damian Craig was on the sideline stealing all of Florida State's signals? Because, he coached Florida State the year before.
Right.
And Auburn had that incredible first half. Well, I read today that Damian Craig was stealing all the signals. They found out about it. Florida State started using towels to block everything. Jimbo Fisher said, hey, that's part of the game. It's on us to change the signal.
No, that's right. In a game.
But that's in game.
Yeah.
The rules prohibit in-person scouting of future opponents, and you're banned even in games of using recording devices to record the other sideline and break that down. Those are 2 separate rules, and this would violate both of those rules. Some of you in the chat room are saying Michigan should be banned from the playoffs. They should be penalized.
Oh, I'm sure you want that. Here's the thing.
Well, what is the penalty?
I don't know. There's no precedent. There's zero precedent for this.
I think they want to suspend Jim Harbaugh. I think the NCAA does not like the way this first one went down and the way he kind of thumbed his nose at them, and Michigan to an extent did as well. And I think they want to suspend him. And I would imagine the NCAA is going to do everything they can to suspend Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Are they able to do it? I don't know.
You know, it's interesting because there's been that theory that he's going back to the NFL for a long time. And I talked to somebody last night that said 100% he will not be at Michigan next year.
Yeah.
Well, according to reports, Michigan, here's the quote. Michigan was working or has been working on a contract extension to make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. So they were in the process before this even came out of working on a contract extension to make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten.
Well, I will say this. Do you guys find it a little interesting and coincidental that Michigan's gotten really good over the last couple of years?
No, I mean, it's wild.
It's 3 years.
Yeah.
In 3 years. They match up exactly to when Stalions started this. And now another Big Ten coach, not a head coach, talking to the Athletic with no naming of him as sort of a, just a name, not his name, just a Big Ten coach, said that they've been doing this for a long time.
That Michigan has, or everybody has.
Doing this
Michigan
for a long
has,
time.
yeah.
But to me, this guy seems to be doing it really well because 3 years, that matches up to all of a sudden Michigan playing a lot better football. I just wonder how much of this goes on all over college football.
Well, again, these paper trails. Another way you could have done this is people still scalp tickets. I mean, there's not a lot of paper tickets, but, this guy is young. He's a grinder. Send him to a game, send him with cash, and buy good tickets.
The most infamous story about this I've heard is 1996 Iron Bowl, I think it was. Bill Oliver had been at Alabama and was at Auburn then. Remember, he had left Gene Stallings and he had gone to Auburn.
Was the interim coach, right?
Well, that was in 97,
Okay.
but he was still defensive coordinator at the time. This was before Bowden had gotten fired. This was in 96. And I think that's right. I think I got my timeline right there. No, 98 was when he was interim coach. Anyway, so he's on the sidelines, or he's in the booth with Auburn, and they had stolen Alabama signals because Alabama had not changed their signals, apparently, which is on Gene Stallings. And Alabama realizes at some point in the game we've had our signal stolen. They know what we're running. So late in the game, they start running the play in from the sideline and sending in dummy signals. And that's how they really figured it out because their stuff started working again, right?
Right.
So they're sending dummy signals in, and Auburn thinks they've got their signals, and they're getting dummy signals. And people are like, well, you could steal them in the game. Why? And that's why, like Lance said, that's why sometimes you see them hold the towel up, right? So,
right.
And that's why a lot of times the home team is opposite from the press box, or is on the same side as the press box. The home team likes to be on the press box side so that the visiting team is the one that's exposing their signals to the coaches' booths.
That's right.
So home teams like to stay on the side of the coaches' booth. You can fix all of this. What?
It's coming up.
Oh, I know, but it could fix all of this if we just do the in-helmet communication the way the NFL does.
Steve Shaw announcing yesterday that in bowl games this year,
Yeah.
it had been decided back in the summer before all this happened, non-playoff bowl games, the ones that are there for entertainment purposes only, the non-playoff bowl games will have the NFL-style in-helmet communications as a trial for colleges. There'll be two. It'll have to be agreed upon by both teams, and you'll have a choice. You'll either go the NFL style in-helmet or the wristband for the quarterback, like pitchers use in baseball with the comm system, where it'll be able to be punched in from the coaches on the sidelines.
Well, if we've got the mic, is there not technology where you can pick that up? I mean, you've always heard if you're going to make one of these calls, make sure it's a hard line.
Yeah, you could probably hack the frequency, and I'm sure that'll be Jim Harbaugh's next move. He'll have got there hacking frequencies. The way it works in the NFL is it shuts down with 15 seconds on the play clock.
Right.
So I get from the end of the last play to 15 seconds on the play clock. So I assume you have to have a neutral person to shut that down. That somebody has to do that. So, I mean, it's not cheap or free, but I think it is very inexpensive and would fix all of this.
It's going to be so typical in such a wide open year,
right,
where people are saying Michigan hadn't played anybody. Now everybody's on Michigan's back, that Michigan is going to roll through and end up winning a national championship.
Jim Harbaugh denies knowledge of this last week.
That's a key phrase.
This is just attempts to diminish the team, was his quote. We know two things about the NCAA. usually they're horrible at gathering evidence, and 2, they're very slow at handing down judgment. Do you think anything happens to Michigan during the course of this football season? And do you think something should happen to them over the course of this football season?
I would say no and no.
I would say, I don't know about should something happen, but I think the NCAA, again, will fast-track this because they got to beef with Harbaugh. And I think they've probably got enough Big Ten coaches that have been barking about this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, but how quick can you fast-track it? You're right. They're slow, and we're sitting here in the middle of October, towards the end of October. There's no way something happens this year.
But I wonder, does the Big Ten get involved to do something?
Yeah. Bill Hancock, by the way, from the committee, says the committee, quote, judges and considers anything that happens in a game.
So, in other words, they could hold this against Harbaugh, is what he's saying?
Well, he says in a game.
Well,
so I don't know
that
if
is
this
a
counts
game.
in
It
a
was somebody
game.
else's game.
Let me bring up one
game.
point. We've seen Harbaugh on the sidelines for 4 games. Didn't matter. And the last time Michigan won a national championship in basketball, they had an interim coach.
Yeah. Oh, it would take, to impact the team, in my opinion, it would take
Forfeits.
them being banned.
Yeah.
Or
Forfeits or them being banned.
Yeah, and I just don't think you can do that to the players.
I don't know. But
So you're going to let future players be penalized? Because
Well-
that's what usually happens.
well, you penalize the
No,
coach.
you penalize coach.
But that's also going to penalize players to a certain extent.
And the staff. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you can do to the players.
Yeah, I don't know what you do either.
Yeah.
Nor-
Again, there's no precedent.
Nor do I know how much of this goes on. Because in the old paying players days, the old SMU days and all that, we learned everybody was doing
Yeah,
it.
if you're going to turn somebody in, make sure your house is completely clean.
But if
that was the motto.
If the Big Ten coaches have been barking this much about it, either Michigan broke a code, in other words,
They're doing it.
they're doing it beyond what everybody has had the handshake agreement or the unspoken agreement we're going to do, or nobody's really doing it except for Michigan. Now, I don't know, one of those sounds, the second one sounds pretty implausible, that nobody else is doing it, right? Only Michigan is doing this. But at bare minimum, if the Big Ten coaches have complained as much as they supposedly have, it appears Michigan went beyond the agreed upon code by everybody.
Yeah, now this, the only thing that's different to me for this from recruiting violations is this seems to be actual cheating in a game. You know what I'm saying? This is cheating the actual
it
game
is.
going on
Yeah.
on the playing surface, not cheating and getting players. This is actual cheating of the game.
This
that's
is the
going on.
Houston Astros.
Yeah,
This seems
it
a
is.
little different.
And
Yeah,
guess what happened to them?
It's a great analogy. Nothing.
Well,
They've still got that World Series trophy.
They got Dusty Baker as their manager, though.